Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
No, I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Productions bring you another movie review.
Well, I don't know how many of these we're going to be able to get, and it's going to be quite interesting to see down the road whether or not this is going to be a momentum to keep going. But we're talking about the Godzilla franchise, and specifically that under the legendary Warner Brothers banner. In this particular case, we're talking about Godzilla Kong, the New Empire.
Now, Godzilla Kong the New Empire is the 38th live-action Godzilla movie, the 13th Kong movie,
Oh, wow, that's enough.
and the 5th theatrically released Monsterverse film.
Now, of course, this is coming right after we already had yet another entry in the Godzilla franchise, that being Godzilla Minus One, which, wow, that was an Oscar contender in and of itself.
It was an Oscar-winning movie at the time of its release.
So, needless to say, we Godzilla fans out here, and the kaiju fandom in general, is eating real good.
Yeah, but apparently, now it's becoming a little bit divisive as to what type of kaiju movies that people actually want to appreciate more than others.
And that's such a weird place to be at, considering for the longest, we've been the laughing stock in the fandom for quite some time. It was pretty much taboo to even talk about these films, despite the fact that they come from from cinema history in and of itself. The reason why these movies are made, especially when you look at the concept of Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla being one of the longest running successful franchises in cinema history, and despite the fact that it's from an international released studio, like Godzilla's known all around the world, and you don't last as long as Godzilla has if you continue to do the same things over and over again.
So exactly where does this film follows? This is a continuation from the last entry in the series, which was Godzilla vs. Kong, where now Kong has found himself in the Hollow Earth and is trying his best to adapt to the concepts that he finds himself down there, along with the Monarch individuals that we found from that other film, monitoring him and trying to see how well are we still working in a universe in which these giant monsters or titans exist, and whether or not it is possible truly to coexist with these creatures.
Yes, this is the first time in the whole spectrum of giant monster movies that really put into perspective just how very little insignificant humans are into this new reality.
I feel so that's actually something that, if you're a fan of the franchise, or if you know anything about the concept of what it means to be in a Godzilla Titan monster movie that deals with Kong and these creatures, you have to be comfortable with the concept that these movies are not necessarily truly about the human experience. This is very much so much that, and they've made this quite incredibly clear in multiple entries, at least within this franchise alone, that this is their world and we're just living in it.
The best way to describe the story in Godzilla Kong the New Empire is that this is an American big budget production that's Kong driven with Toho elements.
Primarily I would say probably within the Showa entries. This film, more so than any of the other entries,
it just gets built. Each film builds upon each other with how much they're willing to go into the Toho realm.
Exactly, and specifically going back, this film finds its story really centered in on the monsters, Titans perspective, and yet again in this entry is because of the way that Kong is as a character and as a creature in general, how close he is with mankind, it really focuses on his perspective and his storyline, which is yet again following the concepts of how alone he is and what it feels like to be the last of your kind.
And this story basically answers that question, whether or not he is alone, and that brings it to the more antagonistic side of things. But even though the fact that this story is Kong focus.
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla's involvement, despite him being top billing, yet again he is.
It's so weird.
He's top billing, but yet he's more supporting, even more so in this movie than he was in Godzilla versus Kong.
Very much.
But he's very much an assist to the overarching, to what is ultimately being conveyed.
Yeah, in this version, unlike the last one, or I guess kind of like the last one, these individuals, these titanic forces, are placed up against another encroaching force that wishes to dominate and control. That in the form of this villain, the villainistic or antagonistic character in this movie being that of the Scar King. And in this particular instance, Godzilla's point of view is yet again being the guardian or protector, or not necessarily protector, but definitely the bouncer of the universe itself.
Let's discuss characters.
Yeah.
Like this gonna like, unlike most other movie reviews, we always talk about how human characters are usually the forefront. No, this is actually going to be the first time ever. We're
gonna just talk about the creatures themselves, the Titans. Kong, I guess we can focus on him first.
Kong, because he's the more emotive, as between the two, I've got him and Godzilla. He's the lead, of course. His emotional storyline is better conveyed, and also, I'll say narrated or exposition from the humorous perspectives of Rebecca Hall's character and Kaylee Hotley's Jaya character. In matter of fact, that he's trying to find his new identity, his new reality and stuff.
Exactly.
He throws into a new role when he does find his new people, and the form of Zuko or Mini Kong. Much more like almost kind of adapting somewhat of the Son of Kong storyline from the 1930s, which brings more to the wolf and cub scenario.
I really actually did kind of like that concept that was being played with these characters, even though we've seen it done multiple times. I mean, there's been quite a few stories out there.
God of War.
Exactly. There's already played Last of Us. They've done that story before, but to see it done with a giant creature in this sense,
it's new color paint.
Exactly, new color paint, but it's not a boring shade for us to be able to view.
Usually, Kong is very much that grizzled veteran character.
Yeah, he's been, through it all. He's already had to, prove himself multiple cases, and having survived a bout with the king of the monsters themselves, and that of the foolishness of the machinations, the humans being able to play something else against him as well. Yeah, this is a new territory for him to be able to see other individuals like him.
The Kid Little Kong of Zuko. First impressions, wow, he is very much it's understandable how he comes off more combative.
Living the way that he did under the regime that he's coming from, yeah, is very much understandable why his initial first steps with Kong is the way they are. But as you go with him in the story, along with Kong and the others, you didn't end up feeling for him. You end up actually, he does leave a little warm spot for you at the end of the day. But it's an aspect that I was very welcome to. I was originally a little standoff from it
because marketing conveys that this is just going to be a Kong show all day.
Kong show, and more like it was really just not trying to take itself super serious at all. At least that was the way that the marketing of this series was going to go. Again, I don't mind being able to shift focus on how the tone is in the story in certain aspects, but when you go towards one end further off, that's when you kind of lose me. But thankfully, that's not exactly what happens in this film. So it was still plenty enough elements within here that actually was able to gravitate to and able to still actually enjoy. And Zuko was definitely a welcomed addition to this story.
Godzilla.
He was a jerk in this movie. I don't care.
Like this brings perspective actually. Godzilla's behavior throughout all of his throughout his entire franchise.
True.
He's just a jerk.
Exactly. He's never been quote unquote the good guy. He's had moments where he's definitely done heroic things, or at least it appeared to be heroic things.
He's only been like in two, and like in the very tail end of the Showa era, is where he was like legit portrayed as okay, he's goody goody two shoes. But
for most of the time, he's pretty much just a jerk that's doing whatever he wants because that he is a force of nature. He is that he's able to do those things because he has the power to do so. And in this particular outing in the series, he very much throws his weight around and he means business. When he wants something done, he wants it done on his terms, and that is all it's going to be.
Titans and humans be damned.
Honestly.
Like, no one... Godzilla's been humbled, actually, very often in the Monsterverse.
It's true.
From his first movie, King of the Monsters, and even the last one, Godzilla vs. Kong. This one, he evolves in this film.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because of how supercharged he was, it's kind of like, it's like one of the few things in this movie that I take a little bit, I have to think critical about. Is like,
was it needed?
Especially how he goes about doing so.
It's like how he goes about doing so is probably more on the factor of
questionably. It's so morally questionable.
I don't even like I said again. He's never been necessarily the good guy. So technically, the way he goes about getting his things is not too far off the base of what he usually does. I mean, you're the fool if you think that Godzilla is ever going to care about you the same way that you may think Kong does.
With human characters, they do follow. This is a very streamlined. They streamline as much as possible to give the monster, the kaiju, as much focus as they can. The main story focus of the human side is mainly with the character Gia.
Yeah.
Played by Kaylee Hottle.
This is a character whose storyline very much is reminiscent to storylines that were already introduced within Godzilla's mythos in general, which is also something that was actually very pleased to actually see.
And like her storyline with bringing in even more of the Toho elements, as in it very pays homage and adapts another character from the Godzilla mythos that let's say when you watch a film, if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this storyline helps balances the Kong aspect into a little bit more of the Godzilla. If you felt as though Kong is getting too much of the screen time, the storyline, if you're familiar with Toho, anything, it should balance it out.
The Scar King. He was definitely an individual that needed to definitely get dealt with.
The best way to describe him is the even more villainous take on King Louie.
Yeah.
From the Jungle Book. Just more skinnier.
Which
giant,
you would think
taller,
would definitely probably play into a concept of how in the living... In what reality would this ever have been a threat for either Kong or Godzilla?
Because if you see in the film, Kong could have easily... The thing is, if it makes sense why it got the reason why Godzilla's into play is because the plan of how Scar King decides to go about and trying to take to try and go up to the surface and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why Godzilla even exists in this film to get go. Mm-hmm. But we can understand if Scar King was the only villain, this could have easily just been a Kong movie. Really,
honestly, there was no real reason. If certain elements in this film didn't play out the way they did, there would have been no reason why Godzilla even made it. Would have even woke up.
There's actually plenty of other Titans that are making surprise appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Some that were introduced previously from King of the Monsters.
And others that were also further explored within certain elements of the comics or the novelizations.
Yeah, they are thankfully brought into display. Short appearances but they are welcome to finally see what they can be done in live action. And from the production side of things, from what Adam Wingard has been done in his 2 Monsterverse entries, is to bring in the make sure the Titans are the main stars of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And VFX has come a long way to help illustrate that. Mind you, in this entry, the VFX is not as sharpened as they were in the previous Godzilla vs. Kong. Other than VFX on production, it's not as sharp, but they are creatively done still. Like Adam Wingard and his team are able to present even bring to life some of these Toho elements that we were thought to be too fantastical for the Western public to make.
Wow. It's again, it's mind-boggling that this kind of film exists, especially for a franchise that it was so beloved for me and for you, that these things exist now in this day and age. That I don't hear no more excuses as to why we don't got a Gundam movie coming out in the works, why we don't got a lot of anime center focus genres being made, or video game adaptations. These things exist, and so here we go.
Aside from overall productions continuing on, yes, this is not Godzilla -1 in terms of dealing with heavy themes.
No,
it's, again, not every movie's going to do so. It is lighthearted. It does have very surface level feelings,
but they serve well for the focus of this film.
It's still entertaining. As far as very critical wise on a production sense, the music is it's still too generic from composer Tom Hulkenberg.
Again, once you had Bear McCurry do your do your score, I mean, it's hard to come back.
But nobody watched King of the Monsters, so the general public really determines whether or not what gets continued and what's not. And clearly, they want something else. But there are some musical cues from the score that it's serviceable on a giant monster sense. We know for what the worst the Monsterverse can do when it comes to music, and that's from the Legacy of Monsters. We know, but which is ironic because Legacy of Monsters also brought the best human characters.
They need some. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you need to bring over some of those characters into these movies.
But overall, I would say this is right around the same park as Adam Wingard's Godzilla vs. Kong, which is only good.
Yeah.
Very entertaining, if you allow it to be. Because at the end of the day, these are just the stories is full on Titans. Humans are just we're insignificant at this time.
And you know what? I'm going to take this also time to just touch in on that concept in and of itself. If your problem with these films is the concept that you cannot roll around with giant creatures like these existing in a world, let alone being these things existing, and you are not in control, let me remind you to the concept there are multiple individuals out here that believe in concepts that are supposedly larger than life, yet you have no proof that they do, and that's completely acceptable. A talking car gets your validation, but a giant 300 or 400 foot tall lizard or ape can't.
You can't engage with that story. If you only see them as just vehicles for action, then that means you watch.
That says a lot more about you than it does the movies.
Yeah, it's like you're doing this movie disservice by completely being too biased. So that we have it. That was our review for Godzilla Kong, The New Empire.
As always, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And hit that bell down there at the bottom for notification if you want more content just like this. Are you a fan of the Godzilla franchise? Have you seen a lot of these legendary adaptations coming to you? How did you fare? Did you actually watch Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire? Let us know.
And also follow us on Twitter, X, Facebook, and Instagram, and Letterboxd, because there's so much content we can ever produce, but there's not enough time to do it.
No.
Yeah. And yet again, my name is Adam.
And I'm here.
This has been a Seeking Me production.
See y'all later.